So the first one here is target audience. It probably comes as no surprise that this is one of the five of key pillars of sales and marketing alignment. And that what we mean by that is really establishing two things. One is your ideal customer profile. So, aligning on that, co-defining it and aligning on that in terms of your targeting. So ideal customer profile is your firmographic, demographic, technographic characteristics of the types of customers you'd like to go after and close. And then your target account list. So a more refined group of, discrete list of key targeted accounts that you're collectively going after. So your ICP, of course, is kind of this list of characteristics and kind of the scale of need to have and nice to have characteristics of both the accounts and the people within those accounts that you're trying to go after and how you're sort of targeting and qualifying in or out. So, for example, at Rollworks, some of our ICP criteria is we sell exclusively to B2B organizations. We're primarily focused on North America, US, Canada, more than 50 employees, et cetera. So these are all of our kind of, formalized ideal customer profile characteristics. There can be some deviation from that. I'll talk about that in a second. But really, that's what we're focused on here. And then for your target account list, this is that list of accounts that you're agreeing to prioritize. It's getting the majority of your focus. It's something that, in an ideal world that you're sort of co-creating is a list of accounts that you believe that have a higher likelihood of closing as customers, renewing and expanding. So that's what we mean by target audience. And we'll go into more detail on what we think that looks like as people sort of are maturing in their sales and marketing alignment. Next up, second here is process, kind of a broad word, but this is really like how we work, right? How we work together to drive sales, pipeline, and revenue. Are your teams sort of operating independently? Are you enabling a fluid and successful handoff, or are you truly collaborating at sort of every level? So it's kind of a general bucket for the ways in which you sort of divide your labor and the degree to which you co-author programs and other efforts to drive pipeline and revenue. And then the third here, then I'll kick it over to my main man, is accountability. What we mean by accountability here is it's all fine and good to have this kind of, this is how we work, this is how we work together. But what happens when somebody drops the ball? I mean, it's inevitable in all relationships, right? My husband and I have a relationship. There are things that we sort of have a handshake agreement on, but inevitably at some point, somebody, drops the ball on something, namely him leaving his socks on the floor for I'm just kidding. But this accountability piece is like, how do you know when somebody's not meeting an agreement and what do you do about it? So we want to establish service level agreements between the teams for the key things that you're driving towards, and then have a frequency and methodologies for driving feedback. So those are the 3 out of the 5 pillars. Daniela, do you want to take the final 2?
Yeah, I'll touch on these briefly. We'll expand and give examples on all of these as we go through this presentation. But from a systems and reporting perspective, I mean, this is a topic that we could spend probably, days or weeks on. But, we're talking about anything from like an infrastructure perspective, right? So we use, lean data, we use Marketo, we use Salesforce.com to like stuff like enrichment tools, Zoom Info, Clearbit, and from a reporting standpoint is, Jody pointed out from an accountability perspective, to make that work, we got to be on the same page. So we're, coming up with joint reports, that are going to highlight, things like SLAs and, campaign success, and a ton of other stuff that's going to really, make sure that we're, perfectly aligned and seeing the same data and the same outputs, because it's not as simple and as easy as it looks. And we'll have some specific examples around that. And then, culture to me is probably one of these that, kind of ties all of this together, to be honest. And it seems to be a contentious area. I was actually just looking at a LinkedIn post recently that said that the actual culture at a company is the inverse of what you see on LinkedIn, meaning that more people are boasting on LinkedIn how great the culture is. Probably that company has some challenges internally, and it just seems like it's more and more becoming a buzzword. So I definitely believe in this. It's something that we truly live here at Rollworks, and I'll touch on a couple of examples of how you can kind of bring the two departments and teams together as we go through this presentation.